Hey guys, tonight we journey back to a world of jeweled daggers, poisoned cups, and velvet-wrapped secrets because you're about to be born as Edward Tudor, the long-awaited son of King Henry VIII. You don't know it yet, but your bassinet's stationed squarely in the middle of a royal chessboard, where every coo, cough, and cradle rock sends ripples through the kingdom. Your birth isn't just a family affair, it's a national obsession, and half of England's been fasting, praying, or scheming for your arrival. You come screaming into the world at Hampton Court Palace. On a chilly October day in 1537, the air smells like damp stone and roasting meat, and while servants run shouting through the halls, one name echoes off the tapestries. A son, after two wives, two dead infant sons, and one still living but inconveniently female heir. Your father finally has what he's wanted more than peace. God, or a good night's sleep, a legitimate male heir. That means no pressure. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your birth feels like a biblical prophecy fulfilled. Jane Seymour, your mother, Henry's third and purest wife, is briefly worshipped like a saint. She gave the king a boy. That grants her instant sainthood in Tudor PR terms. But Jane's not smiling long. Within 12 days of delivering you, she's gone likely from puerperal fever, the kind that strikes when doctors touch too many people and wash too few hands. You, on the other hand, are immediately swaddled in so many layers of silk, lace, and political expectation that it's a wonder you can move. Baptism comes with full royal fanfare, candlelit processions, Latin chanting, even a temporary bridge built over the Thames so nobles don't have to walk the long way. Baby you is dressed like a tiny bishop robes. Hut, the whole bit, just in case God had any doubt whose side he should be on. Your older sisters, Mary and Elizabeth, are there, but you barely notice them. Mary is in her 20s. Awkwardly pushed aside like expired cheese in a royal banquet. Elizabeth is just a toddler, brilliant, precocious, and already learning how to hide her thoughts. Neither one of them matters. You're the boy, you're the heir, you're England's little sunbeam, and everyone else is expected to orbit around you. Historians still argue whether your early years were genuinely happy or just gilded isolation. You don't see much of your father. He prefers royal banquets, political squabbles, and occasionally exploding someone's intestines with public executions. But you get tutors. Gentlemen in robes who smell like ink and frustration. From the moment you can babble, they're teaching you Latin verbs, Greek philosophy, and which fork not to use with fish. You are being manufactured, not just raised. You also get your own staff. Not 2 or 3, but dozens. There are rockers, dressers, nurses, warmers. Yes. People who literally warm your towels, and even a groom of the stool, whose entire job is to help you poop with dignity. The absurdity isn't lost on your courtiers. One jokes that you're half boy, half ceremony. But no one says that too loud. This is Tudor England, where sarcasm can be lethal. You're barely crawling when your first portraits are commissioned. In them, your face is small and serious, like someone just told you about taxes. Artists paint you clutching orbs, wearing miniature armor, and glaring heroically into the future. Never mind the fact that you still can't pronounce RO. Perception is everything, and England needs to believe it has a warrior prince on its hands, not a fever-prone toddler with a milk rash. By the time you're 2, you own more land, horses, and gold-threaded capes than most grown men see in a lifetime. You also get gifts from abroad, toys carved from ivory, mechanical clocks, even a tiny falconry glove, somewhere in your chambers. A lute strums quietly, while servants polish your slippers with scented wax. And still, you sneeze constantly. Because here's the thing, while the world sees a blooming prince, inside, your health is fragile. You're prone to fevers. The sniffles turn into lung trouble. And occasionally, you faint for no clear reason. Doctors hover around you like anxious pigeons, muttering in Latin and offering treatments involving crushed pearls or roasted frogs. One even prescribes red wine mixed with saffron and ground antler. Spoiler, it does not help. There's also a curious moment in your infancy where astrologers predict that you'll either die young or become the greatest king England has ever seen. No pressure. Your nurses just keep that one to themselves and sing lullabies a little louder. Meanwhile, across England, Catholics simmer under the surface. Your father has broken from Rome, created a whole new church so he could legally marry your mother, and he's dissolved monasteries like they were sand castles. That means you're not just royal, you're revolutionary. Your birth represents an entirely new religious chapter, and that terrifies a lot of people, including your own relatives. Oh, and speaking of relatives, let's not forget your half-sister Mary. She's watching all of this with a weary smile and a quiet grudge. She was declared illegitimate years ago, and your birth shoved her even further down the line. But she's also clever, devout, and absolutely not going away. There's an eerie calm as you start toddling down palace corridors, trailing velvet and expectation. You have no idea how many people are watching you, calculating how to use you, protect you, or possibly replace you. You just want more honeyed oatcakes and a story before bed. But this is Tudor England, sweethearts. No one gets a simple bedtime. The palace is quieter now, not in the soft, sleepy kind of way, but in the brittle silence that follows a funeral. Your mother, Jane Seymour, is gone. There are black ribbons tied on sconces, hushed voices in every corridor, and a sort of floral rot lingering in the air from too many wilting bouquets. You're too young to understand what's been lost, but the kingdom mourns with an awkward intensity, half genuine grief, half careful performance. In the wake of Jane's death, your father does something very Henry-like. He retreats. He doesn't come to your nursery with tears or lullabies. Instead, he vanishes behind thick oak doors and distracts himself with food, foreign alliances, and the question of who he'll marry next. You are no longer just a son. You are the only son. And that means you're precious, both like a rare diamond and like an explosive device. The women who care for you wear soft shoes and speak in whispers. Wet nurses pass you from one warm shoulder to the next. You're bundled, bathed, and cooed over, but always gently, always carefully, like a crack in the throne room floor. You represent both hope and anxiety. If anything happens to you, the Tudor line might snap like a frayed rope. You grow, of course. Children do. You learn to walk with a strange waddle, thanks to layers of embroidered skirts and stiff shoes. Your hair is pale, your eyes are sharp, and your skin remains porcelain, not just from good genes. But because you spend so little time outdoors, sunshine is for peasants. You, little heir, are meant to be preserved. Still, it's not all chill and candles. You take delight in odd things, the slap of wet cloth on polished floors, the cackling of peacocks, and a wooden hobby horse that somehow manages to survive 3 full years without being ceremonially burned or gifted to France. These are your secret joys and royal, unremarkable, but yours. And in the background, England seethes. Your father's kingdom is divided. The English Reformation is still fresh and tender, like a scab someone keeps picking. Some nobles want a full break from the Pope. Others want to tiptoe backward toward Catholic tradition. Most just want to keep their heads. And you, the literal embodiment of Protestant legitimacy, are a walking theological battlefield. Well, more of a toddling one. Historians still argue whether Henry truly mourned Jane or simply saw her death as another political turning point. But one thing is certain. He doesn't remarry immediately. That's significant. Jane had done the one thing his other wives couldn't, given him a male heir. It makes her untouchable, almost sacred in Henry's memory. Your baby portrait ends up under a painted arch, flanked by angels, with Jane glowing beside you in eternal serenity. Your sisters, not even penciled in. As you grow into toddlerhood, your awareness of power sharpens in strange ways. You begin to notice how people bow more deeply to you than they do to others. You sense how laughter in your presence feels slightly forced, like everyone's trying just a bit too hard. You don't have language for it yet, but you're learning. Everyone around you is pretending something, one rainy day. While you're being fitted for new court attire, something stiff enough to stand up by itself, you ask why you never see your sisters. Elizabeth visits sometimes, old ginger curls and curious eyes, but she's kept at arm's length. Mary is older, polite but distant. The answer you get is vague, something about protocol and scheduling. But the real answer is darker. Your presence diminishes theirs. You are the heir. They are reminders of inconvenient pasts. Your tutors ramp up their efforts. You're expected to be fluent in Latin before you lose your first tooth. You learn your psalms, your family tree, and the names of every saint and heretic worth remembering. A mainstream historical fact. Your education is designed not just to inform you, but to mold your theology, politics, and sense of destiny. Your future isn't a blank slate. It's a carefully inked scroll, rolled out before you. But here's the quirky tidbit. One of your earliest fascinations isn't politics or scripture, it's clocks. Mechanical ones, imported from Nuremberg or smuggled in through Calais. Tick and chime throughout your quarters. You don't just watch them, you study them. The gears, the rhythm, the idea that time itself can be caged and tamed. It's oddly poetic, given how little of it you'll actually have. Meanwhile, your father is growing larger. By the time you're 4 or 5, he's ballooned in size, his leg ulcer worsening, his temper fraying. You see him infrequently, but when you do, the effect is jarring. This isn't the heroic king from your wall tapestries. This is a man who needs help mounting a horse, who shouts at ghosts and winces when he kneels to pray. He looks at you with something strange in his eyes, half pride, half fear. Perhaps he senses it, the inevitable. You will outlive him. You are both his victory and his expiration date. There's one day an early memory, soft around the edges, when he picks you up in front of the court. It's ceremonial, for sure. He wants the nobles to see their prince lifted like a banner. But in that moment, cradled in the arms of the aging lion, you feel it. The weight of expectation pressing down like armor. Everyone is watching. Everyone is betting. And then there's the first time someone bows to you instead of him. It's awkward, more than anything. A chamberlain forgets the protocol and drops into a knee with his eyes on you. Your father notices, doesn't smile, doesn't speak, but you hear the silence thicken around his throne like cold stew. Later, that chamberlain is transferred to Ireland. By the end of this phase of your childhood, your world is a maze of pageantry, symbolism, and very careful footsteps. You are England's most important child, and that means your life is not really your own. Every cough triggers panic. Every sneeze earns an herbal tea. Every scraped knee sparks a minor political incident. You're a golden boy with a shadow stitched to your heels. A crown hovers above your head, invisible but ever present. And somewhere deep inside, you buried under velvet, Latin, and the weight of a father's desperation, you begin to understand. You are not allowed to fail. The marble corridors echo differently when you're alone. Not the kind of alone that most children know. This isn't a quiet afternoon in a garden or a missed birthday party. This is royal isolation. You're surrounded by people, constantly, but none of them are with you. Not really. Your life is carved into schedules. Breakfast with a steward, Latin drills with one of your 3 rotating tutors, afternoon lectures on classical history or scripture, and always a forced hour with some sour-faced court musician who insists on lute practice. Every minute is tracked like rainfall. Your toys are cataloged. Your lessons are archived. You're less a child than a prototype. And that's the thing, because while England might still view you as this sparkling young heir, in truth, your life has become claustrophobically curated. A gilded petting zoo of one. No other boys your age. No dirty knees or spontaneous games. Just appropriate companions. Usually sons of nobles, handpicked for their obedience. You rarely laugh. When you do, everyone stops and looks at you like they're watching a unicorn hiccup. Your quarters, grand, certainly are not the kind of place where you curl up with a blanket. They're cold, even when fires roar in the hearth. Tapestries on every wall, but the faces in them always seem to be watching you. You're instructed not to lean too hard on the oak panels. They're antique. You're not supposed to touch the ceremonial sword near the fireplace. It's symbolic. You're warned against opening windows without permission, too much damp air. You learn early on that freedom is not your inheritance. Discipline is a mainstream historical fact. Your tutors are some of the most learned men in England. Richard Cox, John Check, and Roger Ascham among them. They're reformists, fiercely Protestant, deeply intellectual. They teach you not just Greek and Latin, but theology and politics, philosophy and logic. You're reading Plato, while most kids are figuring out how not to eat chalk. They call you a marvel of precocity. You can recite psalms in Hebrew. You know the genealogy of European monarchs by heart. You write essays on papal corruption and how the Holy Roman Empire isn't very holy. Roman, or an empire. One of your essays critiques idolatry so sharply that even your tutors exchange glances. Like, did we go too far? But here's the quirky tidbit. Despite your regimented days, you develop a weird, secret joy for wordplay. Puns, little Latin jokes, scriptural riddles. You sometimes slip notes to your tutors with small, mischievous puzzles hidden inside. Your handwriting is neat, royally neat, and the margins are filled with doodles of thrones, clouds, and once, memorably, a dragon vomiting a bishop. And yet, even with these moments of clever rebellion, your health becomes the ghost that never leaves the room. You're not robust. Everyone knows it. You're thin, pale, often tired. If you go outside too long, you wheeze. If you stay inside too long, you get headaches. Doctors poke and prod you, prescribing all manner of tinctures, rosewater-soaked linens, clove compresses, even a peculiar ointment involving crushed sapphires and vinegar. You get nosebleeds often. One physician calls your constitution noble but nervous, which is court speak, for we're worried this kid might fall over and die during breakfast. Historians still argue whether your ailments were genetic, environmental, or perhaps psychological. After all, how does one stay healthy under the crushing awareness that your life must not fail? You sense the fear in others, that quiet panic when you cough too hard, the way servants whisper if you leave half your supper untouched. One winter, you catch something, probably influenza, though no one calls it that. You're laid out for days, sweating through linen sheets, half conscious. When you finally recover, the court holds a quiet mass of Thanksgiving. No party, no parade, just relieved silence. One more close call. Your father doesn't visit. He sends a jeweled goblet. It feels heavier than your head. You begin to write in a personal journal. It's small, bound in soft leather. At first, it's just observations, weather, meals, names of visiting dignitaries. But slowly, you begin recording dreams, the kind that don't go away when you wake up. One features a shipwreck, another, a crown that crumbles when you try to lift it. You don't share these, they're yours. Probably the only thing that really is. Your sense of identity sharpens as you approach age 7 or 8. You realize you are a theological weapon. You're not just Protestant, you are Protestantism. Personified, your very existence justifies the English break from Rome. Henry VIII created a whole new church to get a male heir. And boom, here you are. But even you start to wonder, if God wanted you to be king so badly, why does he make your chest hurt when you walk upstairs? Why do your joints ache? Why does the light sometimes blur into stars when you stand too quickly? You try not to ask these questions aloud. They'd only bring more medicine. There's a feast one evening, your first major public appearance in months. You're dressed in crimson velvet, with tiny gold buttons and a sword that isn't sharp yet. You walk into the great hall, and the court rises as one. Nobles cheer. Trumpets blare. You raise a hand like you've practiced, and then you sneeze. Once, twice. By the third time, someone faints. The rest of the feast is polite panic. Your tutors pretend to laugh. A lord spills his wine, and somewhere, your father's physician starts drafting a memo about humidity and plague season. You return to your rooms early. A fire waits, but you sit beside it instead of near it. The clock ticks. Outside, the wind howls against the leaded glass. You look into the flames and think, what if the kingdom is more afraid of losing me than I am of dying? And for a moment, you almost feel powerful. Time keeps moving, whether you're ready or not. And your 8th birthday arrives under a sky the color of bruised plums. The celebration is muted. Not for lack of effort, there are tapestries hung, banners fluttering, and a special meal of roast venison, sweetmeats, and spiced wine for the nobles. But beneath the pageantry, there's an undercurrent of tension so thick it could be sliced with a dagger. You're expected to be the future of England. The weight of that role sits on your small shoulders, like an invisible yoke, pressing you into shapes you don't quite recognize. You've learned to nod at the right moments, smile when you're meant to, and look regal even when your chest aches. Your tutors push harder, Lessons now stretch late into the evening. History, politics, theology. They don't just want you to know these things. They want you to own them. There's a strange irony in this. Your whole existence is tied to your father's desperate need for a male heir to continue the Tudor dynasty. But his attention is fragmented. Henry VIII, once a vigorous king, famed for his athleticism and sharp mind, has grown increasingly tyrannical and distant. His once robust body is now burdened by an ulcerated leg, swollen fat, and a temper that flares unpredictably. He rules through fear, and the shadow he casts is as long as the corridors of Whitehall. At court, whispers abound. Some nobles question your fitness to rule, pointing to your delicate health as proof you might not survive to adulthood. Others remain loyal, buoyed by the idea that you are God's chosen and the rightful heir. This political intrigue surrounds you like a fog. You don't fully understand it yet, but you sense the stakes. Every cough you have becomes a headline in whispered conversations. Every sneeze sparks panic. Historians still argue whether Henry's declining health affected his treatment of you or if his paranoia simply increased. What is clear is that the king's fixation on securing his dynasty has made your childhood a political battlefield. You're a prize, a symbol, and a pawn all at once. But even in this high-stakes environment, you find moments of lightness. Your fascination with clocks deepens. One of your tutors gifts you a small, ornate timepiece, a marvel of gears and springs that chimes every hour. You spend hours watching it, fascinated by how it measures moments you can never control. You begin to understand time's cruel indifference. It ticks on. Regardless of the crown or the coughs, your health remains precarious. You often wake up sweating, your chest tight, your breath short. Your nurses murmur about delicate constitutions and weak lungs. But the truth is, everyone fears the worst. Some nights, you can hear the distant tolling of the chapel bells, marking deaths at court. You wonder if one day they'll toll for you. In the midst of all this, your relationship with your sisters is complicated. Elizabeth, bright and sharp, visits when she can. But protocol keeps her at arm's length. Mary, older and more reserved, watches you with a quiet intensity that borders on resentment. She's been declared illegitimate. But she's a threat, nonetheless, a reminder of the fragile nature of your claim. Your tutors often remind you of your duty, but they also tell you stories about kings and queens who ruled with wisdom and justice. They want you to believe in a future where you're not just a spoiled child, but a strong ruler. It's a difficult balance, nurturing hope while carrying the burden of expectation. One day, while practicing your Latin with a particularly stern tutor, you stumble over a phrase that translates to "man is born to trouble as the sparks fly upward." It strikes you deeply. It feels like a prophecy, or maybe just a cruel joke. You don't say anything, but you think about it often. The political landscape around you shifts subtly. Your father marries again, his sixth and final wife, Catherine Parr, who brings a new influence to court. She is intelligent, diplomatic, and fond of learning. Her presence introduces a brief period of calm, but you know better than to trust calm for too long. As you approach your 9th year, you grow more aware of your own fragility. You catch yourself wondering how long you'll last. The idea of the throne, once a shining beacon, now feels like a heavy chain. But despite everything, you hold on to small comforts: the ticking clock, the gentle voice of your favorite nurse, the occasional stolen moment of laughter. You're a boy caught between a kingdom's hope and a family's fears, living in a palace filled with secrets, whispers, and shadows. And while your story is just beginning, the chilling truth is that it might end far sooner than anyone expects. The morning light filters through the stained glass windows, casting fragmented rainbows onto the stone floor of your chambers. You wake with a cough, one that has been your unwelcome companion for years now. It rattles deep inside your chest, a constant reminder that your body is fragile, even as your mind races with the weight of royal expectation. Your tutors greet you promptly. There is no rest for a prince. Today's lessons will be grueling logic, rhetoric, scripture, because you're not just being prepared to rule England, you're being groomed to embody its very ideology. Your health matters less than your ability to convince nobles, churchmen, and common folk alike that you are the rightful, divinely appointed heir. But you are more than just a symbol. You are a living paradox, a boy. Yes, but with the eyes of a king. You notice things others miss. the slight tremor in a courtier's hand, the half-hidden smirk of a rival, the way your own reflection sometimes looks too tired for his age. You are watching the court like a chessboard, pieces moving invisibly around you. Henry VIII, your father, grows ever more unpredictable. His bouts of rage can fill a room like thunder, yet sometimes he retreats into silence, a massive, brooding figure wrapped in velvet and pain. You wonder how much of the king's fury is aimed at the world and how much is a quiet frustration with the precarious future you represent. A mainstream historical fact. Your father's reign has fundamentally reshaped England, his break from the Catholic Church, the dissolution of monasteries, and the establishment of the Church of England have all sent shockwaves across Europe. Your very existence is tied to these seismic shifts. Meanwhile, your tutors debate the best way to steer you through these tumultuous times. Some advocate for strict Protestant teachings. Others warn that the political winds could change at any moment. Historians still argue whether the religious education you received was more about theology or political survival. One of your tutors, a man named Roger Ascham, introduces you to classical literature. You read Virgil and Cicero, marveling at their eloquence and the weight their words carry centuries later. You practice speeches, learning to command a room not through force, but through presence. It's exhausting, but you find a strange solace in the words. Quirky detail. You develop an unexpected fondness for exotic animals brought to court, particularly the peacocks that strut proudly in the gardens. Their ostentatious feathers and regal demeanor remind you of the pageantry you're expected to embody, but also hint at something a little absurd beneath the grandeur. Your health, however, continues to decline. The cough worsens, and nights are spent clutching your chest, gasping for air. The court whispers grow louder. Some say you're too weak to survive another winter. Others pray fervently for your recovery. The shadow of death looms like a specter. One evening, Catherine Parr, your stepmother, visits your chamber. She speaks softly, reading from a book of prayers and comforting you with gentle words. You feel a flicker of warmth, a rare moment of genuine care amid the cold formality of your life. But even in these tender moments, you know your time is limited. The throne is a distant, flickering candle, and you are the wick burning bright, but destined to fade. You dream often, now dreams filled with dark waters, broken crowns, and endless corridors. You awaken with a start, heart pounding, the silence of the palace pressing in. You try to hold on to hope, but it slips through your fingers like sand. The weight of destiny is a heavy one, and you bear it alone. The palace feels colder than usual this morning, though the fires burn bright in the great halls. You drag yourself out of bed, the familiar ache gripping your ribs. Your breath comes in shallow gulps, but there is no room for weakness. The court is waiting, the future is watching, and you must perform your role, no matter how heavy the chains. As you walk through the stone corridors, your footsteps echo like distant thunder. The portraits of past monarchs stare down with a mixture of expectation and judgment. You pass Henry VII's stern visage, reminding you of the dynasty's origins, a fragile beginning that blossomed into Tudor power. You wonder if you will be remembered as a continuation of greatness or a fleeting shadow. Today, you attend a council meeting. Though you're only a child, the gathering includes some of the most powerful men in England: nobles, advisors, bishops. They speak in hushed tones, discussing alliances, religious reforms, and threats from abroad. You sit quietly, absorbing every word, trying to decipher the complex dance of politics that will soon be your world. A mainstream historical fact. The European powers watch England closely, wary of the religious upheaval and the young prince's health. France, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire each have stakes in how the Tudor succession unfolds. One noble, a gruff man with a scarred cheek, leans toward another and mutters something about the boy's chances. The phrase hangs in the air like a guillotine blade. You feel the weight of every whispered doubt, but you keep your face steady. Your tutors remind you afterward that knowledge is power. They press you on diplomacy, on the art of subtlety. It's a cruel irony that your body is weak, but your mind is sharpened to a lethal edge. You learn to smile politely while calculating your next move, a skill that will serve you well, or so they say. Quirky tidbit. You develop a habit of doodling small crowns in the margins of your lesson books, each one slightly different. Some are ornate, dripping with jewels. Others are simple bands, almost fragile. It's your secret rebellion against the rigid expectations, a small way to claim ownership of your destiny. Your cough worsens. At night, you sometimes cough until you gag, your lungs burning like fire. The physicians offer remedies that range from honey and herbs to more exotic concoctions involving crushed gems and animal fats. None bring relief. Historians still argue whether your decline was due to tuberculosis, asthma, or something else entirely. Medical science was rudimentary, and many treatments likely did more harm than good. Your family's reaction is muted. Henry VIII remains distant, consumed by his own health and political concerns. Your mother, well, your stepmother, Catherine Parr, continues to visit, offering prayers and soothing words. But there is an unspoken tension, a sense that the court is holding its breath. You dream less now, or perhaps you simply forget your dreams in the morning. The future is becoming a fog, and your present a series of painful moments stitched together by duty. One afternoon, you overhear a conversation between two courtiers. They speculate on the possibility of your death and the chaos it would unleash. The words feel like knives, but you don't react. Instead, you focus on the sound of the wind outside, the distant cry of a hawk, and the relentless ticking of your cherished clock. You begin to understand the cruel truth. You are both cherished and disposable. The fragile heir, the spoiled son, the symbol of a kingdom's hope and its most vulnerable link. Yet, despite the fear and the frailty, you resolve to keep fighting. For your country, for your family, for yourself. The autumn leaves fall outside your window like golden confetti. A quiet reminder that time moves on, even if your body feels stuck in slow motion. Each day, you grow thinner, weaker, but the court expects more. More learning, more composure, more hope pinned on your fragile frame. Your tutors push you hard. There's no room for pity here. They remind you daily that the throne is not just a prize, it's a burden. History is watching, and the eyes of England rest heavily on your shoulders. You memorize speeches, scripture, and laws, building a mental fortress to protect the boy who feels more like a ghost. Your cough now sounds like a rattle, a brittle warning that each breath could be your last. Yet you smile for the visitors, accept gifts with polite nods, and parade through the corridors in lavish garments that weigh as heavily as your worries. The glittering jewels on your collar reflect the candlelight, but cannot brighten the shadow inside. A mainstream historical fact. In these years, the political climate in England is turbulent. Factions form and dissolve around religious allegiance and succession plans, with many eyes turning toward your half-sister Elizabeth and your older sister Mary as potential heirs. Should you fail, you overhear hushed conversations, nobles questioning whether a sickly boy can govern a realm that demands strength and decisiveness. It stings, even if you try to ignore it. Sometimes, you imagine slipping away quietly, free from the gilded cage. Yet, amid the tension, you discover an unexpected comfort. Music. A court musician gifts you a small, delicate recorder, and when you manage to play a clear note, the sound feels like a breath of fresh air. You practice in secret, the soft melodies offering a fleeting escape from your rigid world. Historians still argue whether your enjoyment of music and literature was an act of rebellion or a coping mechanism. Perhaps it was both a way to carve out identity amid suffocating expectations. One day, your health takes a sharp downturn. You struggle to breathe, your body shaking with fever. The court physicians surround you, their faces grave, offering potions and prayers. You catch glimpses of panic behind their professional masks. Your stepmother, Catherine Parr, remains a steady presence. Reading scripture and offering quiet prayers, you find solace in her voice, a balm amid the storm, a quirky tidbit. Despite the seriousness of your condition, you develop a habit of collecting pressed flowers, which you hide beneath the pages of your books. These fragile blooms become a secret archive of beauty and life amid decay. Your dreams become darker, filled with images of crumbling castles and flickering candles. You awake with a start, heart pounding, the reality of your mortality pressing close. Yet you cling to hope. However faint, the throne is still yours to claim, and you are determined, against all odds, to reach it. Winter descends on the palace with a cold so biting it seeps through even the thickest tapestries. You wake to frosted windows and the quiet hush that only snow can bring. The chill is relentless, and it seems to settle in your bones, making every breath a slow, painful effort. Yet, the court carries on with its calculated grace, as if the biting cold and your worsening condition are minor inconveniences rather than life-threatening realities. You're wrapped in layers of velvet and fur, a royal figurehead draped in opulence. But beneath it all, your body betrays you. The cough, now a constant, ragged companion, rattles in your chest, stealing your strength day by day. You sometimes feel as if you're walking underwater, every movement a labor, every heartbeat an echo of the fragility that defines you. Your tutors continue their relentless instruction, pressing you to master not just the words, but the gravitas required of a future king. You sit through lessons on governance and theology, trying to absorb the complexities while your mind drifts to simpler things, the warmth of the sun on your face, the scent of wood smoke from the kitchens, the soft rustle of the peacock feathers you so admire. A mainstream historical fact. Henry VIII's sixth wife, Catherine Parr, not only cared for you, but was an influential figure in the religious and political reforms of the era, advocating for a more Protestant England and pushing for education reforms that would eventually shape the future monarchs. Despite the palace's grandeur, whispers grow louder. Courtiers murmur about your frailty, and some quietly hope that if you do not survive, the succession might pass to your sisters, especially Elizabeth, who is gaining favor for her intelligence and charm. This undercurrent of speculation is like a shadow looming just out of sight, always present. Historians still argue whether the political factions at court played a role in hastening your decline, or if your illness was simply a matter of biology catching up to you. The truth likely lies somewhere between intrigue and inevitability. Amid this, you find solace in small acts of rebellion. You begin sneaking out of your chambers to wander the castle gardens. Despite strict warnings, the cold bites, but the freedom tastes sweet. You listen to the crows cawing and watch the branches sway against the gray sky. Small, defiant moments where you reclaim a bit of yourself from the suffocating expectations. A quirky tidbit. You develop an odd fascination with snowflakes, insisting that no two are alike. Much like yourself, you try to catch them on your tongue, marveling at their fleeting beauty before they melt away, an ironic metaphor for your own fragile existence. One night, you cough so violently you wake yourself. Gasping for air, the walls seem to close in, the flickering candlelight casting eerie shadows. Yet, you hold on to the whispered prayers and soft lullabies sung by your nurse, a fragile thread tethering you to life. You are the spoiled son of Henry VIII, trapped between history and fate, dreaming of a crown that might never rest on your head. The court buzzes with a strange mixture of hope and dread, as if everyone is holding their breath, waiting for the inevitable but unwilling to admit it aloud. You, the fragile prince, continue your daily ritual, rising before dawn, enduring lessons that stretch your mind even as your body weakens, and facing a world that expects you to be invincible. Your cough has become a signature sound, echoing through the halls like a mournful metronome. Visitors flinch when they hear it. Courtiers exchange worried glances, and your nurses move with quiet urgency. Still, you push through, knowing that any sign of weakness might hasten your undoing. A mainstream historical fact. Your condition is now widely believed to be tuberculosis, a disease that in your time was poorly understood and almost always fatal. The treatment options are limited to rest, herbal remedies, and prayers, none of which can halt the slow, steady decline. Historians still argue whether the pressures of court life accelerated your illness or if your fragile constitution was doomed from the start. Some suggest that the psychological weight of being Henry VIII's heir contributed to your physical decline, a theory that highlights the intimate link between mind and body. You find brief reprieve in your secret sanctuary, a small alcove in the palace gardens, hidden behind a thick hedge of hawthorn. Here, you escape the relentless gaze of the court, the heavy expectations, and the suffocating rituals. You watch the sky change colors at dusk, the way the stars begin to twinkle, and you wonder if they are watching you too. Quirky detail. You've taken to collecting pebbles from the garden paths, each one smooth and unique, as if nature is reminding you that even small things can endure. You line them up on your windowsill, creating patterns that only you understand a private language amid the chaos. Your relationship with your siblings remains complicated. Mary visits occasionally, her eyes filled with a mixture of pity and something sharper, perhaps jealousy or resentment. Elizabeth is kept at a distance, her bright mind and quick wit making her both a threat and a consolation to the court. Your stepmother, Catherine Parr, remains a constant source of comfort, reading to you from the Bible and encouraging you to find strength in faith. Her presence is a small light in the gathering gloom. One afternoon, you overhear a whispered conversation between two nobles discussing the future of England without you. The thought stings like a dagger, but you keep your composure. You are learning to wear the mask of royalty stoic, composed, untouchable. Your dreams become less frequent, but when they come, they are vivid and unsettling. You see shadows lengthening over the palace, hear distant bells tolling, and feel the cold embrace of the unknown. You awaken with a start, your heart pounding, the reality of your mortality pressing close. Despite everything, you cling to hope. You imagine a future where you sit on the throne, ruling with wisdom and strength. It's a fragile dream, but it's yours. The spoiled son of Henry VIII faces a chilling end, but in these quiet moments, you are still very much alive. The chill of winter lingers, but spring is whispered about in the corridors, a promise of renewal that feels cruelly distant. Your body grows frailer each day, yet your mind burns brighter, fueled by a mixture of youthful defiance and royal duty. You are aware of the rumors swirling like autumn leaves speculation about your health, your future, and the legacy you might leave behind. You spend more time in your chambers now, wrapped in furs and propped up with pillows, surrounded by the trappings of royalty, golden goblets, rich tapestries, and the ever-watchful portraits of Tudor ancestors. Their painted eyes seem to follow your every move, as if judging your worthiness to wear the crown. Your tutors are relentless, determined to squeeze every drop of knowledge from you. Even as your strength wanes, they prepare you for a reign that may never come, drilling you on the nuances of diplomacy, law, and theology. Your mind wrestles with these lessons, while your body fights a losing battle, a mainstream historical fact. By this point, the delicate political balance of Europe means your survival is crucial. Your death could ignite wars or cause England to plunge into chaos, especially given the religious tensions of the time. Historians still argue about the influence your health had on Henry VII's later years. Some suggest your declining condition added pressure that shaped his own decisions, including marriages and alliances. You find yourself fascinated by the tiny details of palace life, the way light filters through stained glass, the scent of beeswax on polished wood, the soft rustle of silk gowns. These small pleasures become anchors in a world otherwise spinning toward uncertainty. Quirky tidbit. You develop a habit of watching the palace cats, noting their graceful independence and aloofness. You envy their freedom, their ability to slip through shadows unnoticed. One evening, Catherine Parr visits with a small book of poetry. She reads softly, her voice a soothing balm. You close your eyes, letting the rhythm wash over you, momentarily forgetting the weight of your illness and your impending fate. The court's mood grows more somber as news of your worsening condition spreads. Courtiers exchange guarded glances, and some prepare for a future without you. Yet, you hold tight to your fading strength, determined to claim your place in history. You wonder if the throne is worth the cost, this endless struggle between body and duty, hope and despair. The spoiled son of Henry VIII, caught in a battle he did not choose, fighting against a chilling end. You can feel the palace closing in around you like a cage made of stone and velvet. The days grow shorter, and your strength wanes further. Your cough echoes through the halls, a haunting reminder of the battle raging within your chest. The once vibrant boy is now a pale shadow, wrapped in silks that do little to mask the frailty beneath. Your education continues, though it sometimes feels like a cruel joke. The tutors speak in grand terms of kingship and legacy, yet your body betrays the possibility of ever fulfilling those lessons. You find solace in the quiet corners of the palace, where the scent of burning wood mingles with the faint aroma of herbs from the apothecary, a mainstream historical fact. By now, your father, Henry VIII, is heavily involved in religious reform, steering England away from the Catholic Church, a move that colors the political landscape you will inherit if you live to do so. Historians still debate how much your illness affected the religious policies and succession plans Henry VIII pursued in his final years. One day, you overhear court gossip, hinting at plans to bypass you altogether in the line of succession. The idea stings, but you dare not show it. You're learning that power is a game of appearances as much as action. Quirky tidbit. You become fascinated by the miniature portraits painted of you, a common Tudor pastime. In these tiny images, you appear stronger, healthier, a far cry from your pale reality. They serve as your idealized self, a silent promise of what might have been. Your relationships with your siblings remain complex and distant, shaped by court politics and personal rivalries. Mary, your older sister, carries a regal dignity tinged with bitterness, while Elizabeth's keen intelligence hints at the future queen she is destined to become. Your stepmother, Catherine Parr, continues to be a pillar of support, reading scripture and encouraging your faith even as your body betrays you. Nights are the hardest. You lie awake, listening to the muffled sounds of the castle guards pacing, distant voices, the crackle of flames in the hearth. Your cough interrupts the silence, a cruel reminder that time is running out. Yet, in these quiet hours, you dream not of crowns or power, but of freedom, of open fields and endless skies, of a life beyond the palace walls. You are the spoiled son of Henry VIII, caught between expectation and reality, facing a chilling end that history will never forget. The cold deepens, and with it, the silence around you grows heavier. You feel the slow drift toward the inevitable, a twilight where your once bright future dims to a flicker. The days blend into one another, punctuated by fits of coughing and moments of fragile clarity. Your body is a battleground, your lungs the contested territory. You spend more time lying in bed, gazing at the ornate ceiling above you, tracing the patterns of gold leaf and painted roses, imagining the stories behind each brush stroke. The palace feels both vast and confining, a world you cannot escape and yet do not fully belong to. A mainstream historical fact: tuberculosis, then known as consumption, was a leading cause of death in Tudor England. With no effective cure, its slow, wasting progression was often romanticized, yet utterly devastating. Historians still argue whether your illness hastened political moves at court, including the acceleration of your father's plans for the succession and marriage alliances. Despite your weakness, you maintain a sharp wit and a subtle sense of humor, sometimes catching courtiers off guard with a clever remark or a dry observation. It's a small rebellion, a reminder that beneath the fragile exterior beats a mind that refuses to be silenced. Quirky tidbit. You develop a peculiar habit of naming the palace mice, attributing personalities and backstories to each, imagining them as little courtiers, navigating the labyrinth of corridors and shadows. Your relationship with Catherine Parr deepens, her gentle care a balm for your weary spirit. She reads to you from books of poetry and scripture, her voice a soothing presence in the cold, dark nights. You cling to these moments, fragile threads of comfort in an uncertain world. The court grows restless, tensions simmering beneath the surface as nobles jockey for favor and position. You sense the shifting tides, the fragile alliances that will define England's future after you. You dream less now, but when sleep comes, it carries you away from pain and politics to distant fields bathed in golden light, where the air is sweet and your lungs fill with ease. The spoiled son of Henry VIII faces the chilling end looming ever closer. Yet in your heart, a quiet hope lingers, a wish for peace beyond the palace walls. Your breaths come slower now, each one a whisper of what once was. Each cough a reminder that your time draws near. The palace, with all its grandeur, feels emptier by the day, as courtiers and family alike brace for the inevitable. You watch the flickering candlelight dance on the walls, the shadows stretching like fingers reaching for you. Despite your weakness, you hold on to a quiet dignity, the last embers of a royal flame flickering stubbornly within. The lessons continue, though now they feel like echoes from a distant past rather than preparation for a future. A mainstream historical fact: Edward VI, your given name, was crowned King of England in 1547 at just 9 years old, marking one of the youngest coronations in English history. Historians still debate the extent to which your illness shaped the political landscape after your death, including the Regency Council that ruled during your brief reign. You find comfort in small routines, having your favorite prayers read aloud, savoring the rare sweetness of honeyed cakes, and listening to the soft murmur of the palace chapel choir. These moments anchor you in a world that feels increasingly uncertain. Quirky tidbit. You develop a fascination with alchemy and the idea of transformations, perhaps drawn to the hope that something as elusive as the Philosopher's Stone might change your fate. Your siblings grow more distant as your illness progresses. Mary, once fiery and defiant, now seems resigned, while Elizabeth's future brilliance is hinted at in quiet smiles and thoughtful gazes cast your way. Catherine Parr remains steadfast, her presence a calming force as you navigate the shadowed halls of your fading life. One night, you catch a glimpse of your reflection in a polished mirror, pale, fragile, and yet holding a hint of the boy who once dreamed of ruling a kingdom. You are the spoiled son of Henry VIII, nearing a chilling end, yet in your heart, a quiet hope whispers of peace and legacy beyond the pain. The winter light is weak and gray, casting long shadows across your chambers where you lie in stillness. Your body feels like it belongs to someone else, a fragile shell too worn to hold the fire that once burned within. The distant sounds of the palace bustle remind you that life goes on, indifferent to the slow fading of a young prince. Your mind drifts between memories and dreams. You recall the laughter of childhood, the sharp tang of ambition, and the heavy weight of expectation that settled on you like a shroud. You think about the throne that may never be yours, the crown that may rest on another's head, a mainstream historical fact. After your death, your half-sister Mary ascended the throne, marking a significant religious and political shift in England as she sought to restore Catholicism. Historians still debate how your brief reign and premature death influenced the course of the Tudor dynasty and England's religious future. Despite the fading strength, you muster moments of clarity and even humor, surprising your attendants with witty remarks and a quiet defiance that reminds them of your royal blood. Quirky tidbit. You develop a fascination with heraldry, spending hours studying the intricate designs of coats of arms, imagining yourself as a knight in shining armor, defending your family's honor. Catherine Parr's visits become more frequent, her gentle words and prayers a source of comfort. She reads passages of hope and redemption, offering solace in a time filled with uncertainty. Your siblings' visits grow sparse, but you hold no bitterness. Instead, you focus on the quiet moments, the soft brush of a hand, the warmth of a whispered prayer. You sense the end drawing near, but your thoughts remain surprisingly serene. You imagine a world beyond the palace, free from pain and expectation, where your spirit might finally rest. You are the spoiled son of Henry VIII. Nearing the chilling end, history remembers, yet within you lies a quiet hope that transcends even death. The palace grows quieter as the final days approach. The once lively halls are now filled with a solemn hush, broken only by the soft footsteps of those who come to offer last comforts. You lie still, wrapped in the finest linens, surrounded by familiar faces and the scent of burning incense. The weight of impending farewell settles softly around you, mingling with the faint warmth of flickering candlelight. Your thoughts drift gently between memory and hope, the line between waking and dreaming blurring as you navigate the final chapters of your young life. You recall the bright days of youth, the laughter, the lessons, the dreams of kingship now fading into a tender twilight, a mainstream historical fact. Upon your death at the tender age of 15, Edward VI's reign lasted just over 6 years, but his influence on religious reform and the future of England was profound. Historians still argue about what England might have become had you lived longer, whether your Protestant reforms would have solidified, or if the tides of history would have shifted yet again. You find peace in the small details, the cool touch of a hand, the soothing cadence of a prayer, the quiet rhythm of your own breath. The palace, once a place of expectation and pressure, now feels like a cocoon, sheltering you in your final moments. Quirky tidbit. In your final days, you express a fascination with the stars visible through your window, asking to be told their stories, as if seeking guidance from the heavens. Your stepmother, Catherine Parr, remains by your side, a steadfast guardian, offering comfort with gentle words and unwavering presence. Your siblings visit quietly, their faces etched with sorrow and love. As you slip closer to the end, there is no fear, only a serene acceptance. The spoiled son of Henry VIII, once destined for greatness, now steps softly into history's embrace. Now, Dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. End of script. Sweet dreams.